Okay, let's take another look at one of these National Geographic images, which again I've purposely flattened and made dull and interesting for the purpose of this tutorial. We'll use curves again, and let's work a bit faster here now. We'll use curves and decide what's good and bad thing to do with this image. Let's find the white points and decide which is important in this image. Now obviously not the text at the bottom, we're not interested in that white text, but we've got the clouds coming in there and also some areas of the rock face down here. Now with this image, out of those two areas, personally I would want to see some detail on the rock face here, so I'm going to shift click and place marker number 1, which is nicely coming at 242 being the highest value. And let's just roll the mouse around, and I'm watching these RGB values here, and that's already high in one of the channels at 255, so we are in fact losing some detail there. But out of the two, I can definitely say that I would prefer to see some information held in the rock face, and we can certainly have a few bright whites in the clouds. I mean, we've got plenty of clouds in the sky with detail, so I'll go with that. Conversely, let's have a look at the shadow areas. Now we're not bothered about this black area in the graphic design portion of this image, so I'll hold down the Alt key and we'll scroll around, and obviously it's going to be this shadow area here. I'll shift click, place a marker, that's at 000. That's fine for me, but if you're one of these photographers who are very interested, obsessed with keeping shadow detail, some detail in the shadows, then you may not want to work at 000 here. Now, let's not forget that this looks like it was quite a bright day, and on a bright day, if you look around you in the natural world, you'll see plenty of shadow and highlight areas, natural shadows, and that's the way the world is. There doesn't necessarily have to be detail in the shadows. So I'm not a big fan of this obsession with keeping detail in shadow areas. Anyway, that's a discussion for another topic, another time. So if you are not happy about that, you can pull this back a bit, and you can see that value's at now 13, but to me that looks a little bit flat, not as good like that. Anyway, I'll leave that up to you. And beyond that, then let's take a look at where this information lies here, and just gently pop a little more contrast into the image like that. So that's before, that's after. Now, not with this image, but let's assume you'd shot a set of images. Let's say you were practicing some still life at home on your tripod, or you were in an area of lighting where the lighting across, let's say, a series of 10-20 images was similar. I'm going to point out now, and I didn't mention this with the Levels movies, but you can certainly do the same thing with Levels, the fact that you can save settings. You can save this particular set of settings by going to this area here, and you can see we can save this curve here as a preset. Now you can save it off wherever you want. In this case we'll put it on the desktop, and I'll call it my test 1 for want of a better name. I'll click OK, and once I've clicked OK, obviously that's the curve applied. Again, this is before by clicking the eyeball here, that's after, before and after. We've certainly got contrast. This image is lacking in terms of colour, but that's again a subject for another tutorial, but it's certainly got that contrast it needs now. And if I wanted to apply that same setting to another image, as I say, because it's part of a set that was taking in the same light, then I can just reapply the curve across those images, either individually one by one, or automatically with something called a batch process, which I'll be explaining batch processing and automation in some future movies. But let's assume that this was another image from that day at that particular time, and we've already edited the image and we've saved the preset curve as we have earlier. So we're pretending now and assuming that this is the second image of a set of images. So we can go here and go to curves and we can click in here and say load the presets. There's our preset saved away, and you can see it will load that curve. So that's a nice, and there are other ways to do that also, but that's just saving and applying presets. I'll click OK. So obviously with this particular image and that preset, we're in the same situation as we were just earlier. So I think you'll find that just a little bit faster there, and a nice little tip there if you didn't know how to save and reload and reuse your presets.